It is Wednesday on Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Glad to be back for another day. Glad to be back in the Twin Cities. Had a wonderful time in London. Some work, some play, some free time, some sights. Took in the Vikings game, of course. If you guys have listened to the last couple podcasts, including the Access Vikings podcast that we did with Ben Gessling and Chip Scoggins after the game, and then the podcast I did on Tuesday with some friends and I who were there at the game. Back in Minneapolis, long day of travel yesterday. It's not easy getting back from London. I had connecting flights. Some travel, almost a travel mishap in Boston where they had my reservation, but they couldn't find my ticket. They had to reissue the ticket, but because it was a different airline that was kind of flying in conjunction with my booking airline, I had to call. I was in the airport in Boston, freaking out because they couldn't print me a boarding pass. Had an hour before my flight was going to leave, calling an international airline, hoping they can reissue the ticket, but it all worked out in the end. It was about 30 minutes of tension, and funnily enough, it was about 5 minutes after that was all resolved that I recorded a segment for today's show with Randy Johnson, Star Tribune Gophers football writer, talking about the upset win they had over USC last week, looking ahead to UCLA this week. So that will be here in just a few minutes. Hopefully I don't sound too rattled on that. It was I was calm by the time I talked to Randy. I was outwardly calm, projecting calm to all the people I had to talk to, but I did not, let's just say I did not want to be stranded in Boston because of a clerical error. I just wanted to get home, and here I am. I got home. It wasn't even too late when I got back. It was 7. It was all my flights were fine. It was just that little travel hiccup that I did not need at the end of basically a 20 to 24 hour travel day. Lots to get to, though, like I said on today's show. At the end, some Vikings thoughts on Aaron Jones and what his hip injury, what that timetable might look like. Twins have finally moved on with a new TV deal. I definitely have to talk about that because that has been a favorite subject of mine over the years. So we'll get to that in a minute. First, though, what I miss. Obviously, starting with the Lynx, 88-77 win over Connecticut in Game 5 of the WNBA semifinals, advancing to the WNBA Finals for the first time since 2017. That was also their last championship. This year feels completely different, though, from any of those other years. I mean, maybe save 2011, right? 2011 when they won their first ever title. And kind of came out of nowhere. The year before that, they'd won the draft lottery. They weren't even a playoff team. What were they, 13-21? And then they were able to draft Maya Moore, and the rest is history. That team, though, you looked at it and you're like, oh man, Lindsay Whalen. They had already gotten Lindsay Whalen. They had Maya Moore. They had Simone Augustus. And Rebecca Brunson. They were a tremendous team. They just hadn't done it yet. So expectations were maybe up a little bit, even though we didn't know how good they'd be. And of course, they won the title. This year, though, they come into the season, we've talked about this, the over-under for their wins for the regular season was 17, something ridiculous. Not even a 500 record for a 40-game season. They end up winning 30 games in the regular season. Napheesa Collier is tremendous. Cheryl Reeve. Let's talk about the year Cheryl Reeve has had, by the way. Coach of the year, executive of the year. Oh, and by the way, in the middle of that, coached the USA women's basketball team to a gold medal. Got the Lynx to the finals on the strength of her coaching of this team, but also a lot of the offseason moves they made, all of them paying big dividends. One, Courtney Williams in particular, was terrific in Game 5 on Tuesday night to get them kind of that extra scoring they needed. It was really her and Kayla McBride, and of course, Collier having another tremendous game in that one to lift them over the top and get them where they need to go. It's just an impressive, maybe impressive is even underselling what they have done to this point now to reach the WNBA Finals, to be playing Game 1 now in New York here in a couple days. They'll be an underdog in the series, right? We're going to get to that in a minute. The underdog in the series, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just focus a little bit, though, on the game that they played last night. Here is Cheryl Reeve talking about her emotions in the immediate aftermath.
Proud. I can't tell you how badly our staff wanted this for them. We've all experienced it, as you mentioned. But this group it's just been a really special group, and the number of people that have reached out to me to tell me how much they enjoy watching them play and they do things the right way and that we're rooting for them. And so I just overwhelmingly felt proud for how we played. We played Lynx basketball tonight, and it was nice to get back to that. Guaranteed you that we would play the defense that we played. We're now 180-6 since 2011 when we hold our opponents below 40%. To do that to this team was special.
And what more can you say about Collier? I mean, second in the MVP voting this season, Defensive Player of the Year. If not for A'ja Wilson, she would be talked about as the superstar in the WNBA. A'ja Wilson's just at a level that is kind of untouchable right now. She's kind of the LeBron of, the dominant player for so long in this league. I think she's going to carry that mantle for a long time, even if it's a different position. But Napheesa Collier, just the way she's been able to raise her game every year, the way she shows up in these moments. Game 5, do or die, 37 minutes, 10 of 16 from the field, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 block shots, a plus 12 on the night. And here's the thing. You expected that from Napheesa Collier in this game. Even if you didn't know for sure it was going to happen, you went into this game thinking Napheesa Collier is going to put up a night like that in an elimination game. She's just that kind of player where you can say, hey, almost always you are going to get that kind of maximum output. You're always going to get maximum effort, but you're almost always going to get maximum output. She kind of had one clunker in the playoffs out of 7 games so far, and they still won that game. It was game 2. They had to have that one. She shot just 3 of 14 in that game. They still won. Every other game she's been on fire. I think she scored like 30 points per game in the playoffs this year. Patrick Royce had a really good column on her and just how much she has meant to this team. Cheryl Reeve, again, after the game, talking about her kind of ascent from good player to great player to league superstar to now probably like one of the 2 or 3 very best players in the entire WNBA right now.
What makes Fee special is the consistency and the way that she shows up every single day. Fee is always the same. Her work ethic, her demeanor, her passion for improving. She's improved every season. She's just been incredible. And every game, it's more than scoring, how she helps our team. And, I was really happy that Court helped her out some, tonight, because when we do that, obviously we're really hard to beat. But, when Fee is the MVP, plays like the MVP, we're a hard team to beat.
Now, our own Kent Youngblood noticed that Napheesa Collier sought out Lindsay Whalen after the game, almost in the immediate aftermath of the Lynx clinching that game, clinching a berth in the finals. Let's hear from her talking about why she went and found Lindsay Whalen.
Wade has continued to text me all season, all last season, just showing her support, and it means so much. Like, just having someone who such a Hall of Famer and who has gone through this and has done what I want to achieve. Like, hearing from her and seeing her support showing up, I just thought, I wanted to give her a hug just to say thank you, and thanks for showing up for us. Thanks for, showing up for me and the team, and thank you for passing this legacy on to us, because it means a lot, and definitely want to do her proud and continue. Like, the job's not done. We want to continue on. So, it was that was what was going through my mind.
Like I said at the jump, it wasn't just Collier in this game. It wasn't just Collier all season. She's had lots of help from a supporting cast, various people getting it done at various points. Bridget Carlton wasn't one of those yesterday, 0 of 6 from three-point range, but listen, she gets picked up by Courtney Williams, like I said, 24 points, huge game for her. She had 7 assists, 2 and 5 rebounds. Kayla McBride, a huge game. She had 19 points. She was a +9. They got some contributions off the bench. Natasha Hedeman, 7 points off the bench. Like, they just get contributions from everybody. Maisha Hines-Allen, a huge addition at the trade deadline before, right after they came back from pretty much right after they came back from the Olympic break and really started taking off to an even greater degree this year. Now, like I said, the task, it's harder. It gets incrementally harder, like it should be, right? You get to the finals, it should be getting harder. Now they have to play New York, a great team, a team they just beat in New York a couple weeks ago at the end of the regular season, but this is the playoffs. New York is the prohibited favorite. Looking at the betting lines, stuff like that, if you look at that, series odds giving Minnesota basically a 30% chance to win. New York, kind of like a 2-1, a little bit more than a 2-1 favorite to win this series. But I would say this. pick against the Lynx at your own peril. They have been overachieving, defeating expectations this entire season. I don't think anything is out of their reach right now. I'm not saying that guarantees they're going to win. This is a very good team they're playing against. Like I said, they're the underdogs for a reason. New York is an excellent, excellent team. But I would say they have been exceeding expectations so much this season that I don't think you should count them out at any point this year. I feel like this is their opportunity. This is their time to win their 5th WNBA title. And again, pick against them at your own peril. Go ahead and try to do that. They have been beating those odds all season long. Twins are moving on finally from Diamond Sports, Bally Sports North. It's been a subject near and dear to my heart for more than a year now, multiple years of daily delivery. Like this podcast started 3.5 years ago. We're almost 1,000 episodes in, by the way, almost 1,000 episodes of daily delivery. I think I'm almost to 950 right now. When you get that far up, you're like, man, I've been talking about this story for a long time. When they lose distribution with different streaming sources. The whole Comcast mess this past year. Last year, were they finally going to leave or were they going to go back to Bally Sports North? They decide for one more year with Bally Sports North in 2024. But right now, making a clean break. We had heard from Diamond Sports, I think, last week saying, hey, teams are free to go ahead and find something new, kind of signaling that this was going to be coming to an end. Dave St. Peter, I believe it was like earlier this week, saying, hey, when they announced the WCCO partnership, saying, hey, I think this is going to happen pretty soon, that we're going to have some TV news. Well, the news came the next day. Twins signing on. Major League Baseball is going to be distributing their games. This is big on a number of fronts. And I'm not going to be that guy that says, too little, too late, right? Like, I wish this would have happened a year ago. I get the economics maybe of why it didn't. I think it backfired on them for a couple of different reasons. I'm just, for fans, for myself, for the Twins, for kind of everybody who likes this team, who wants to follow this team, who wants to watch this team, I'm happy for all those people because it's going to be a lot easier now. You're going to still have cable satellite distribution, but I think that will be even better now. That will be even easier because essentially you are cutting out the middleman, as I understand it. Basically, like, think about Diamond Sports, Bally Sports is kind of being the middleman, right? You have, this group that buys the rights to distribute the games, and then you have all these different entities that show the games, Comcast, DirecTV, all these different outlets that have the cable satellite package. Now you kind of cut out the group that's in the middle. The Twins kind of got caught in a lot of those battles, right? Like, it disappears from Hulu, it disappears from YouTube TV because there's a battle over how much it's going to cost, stuff like that. They're off Comcast Xfinity for 3 months last year, and people are upset. They're fed up. Well, now, I'm not guaranteeing that's never going to happen again, but now you don't have this kind of entity wedging itself between baseball and the channels it's trying to be on. So again, I think they'll have an easier time distributing those deals and negotiating those deals. You've seen how it works with a lot of the other teams that have already gone this route, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, things like that. So it's just it'll be a different model going forward, but that piece of it feels like it'll be easier. Now, the icing on the cake, or the thing, maybe more than the icing, the thing they kind of had to have along with it is now they will also be able to sell you a direct-to-consumer package, basically like what they've been doing, what Major League Baseball has been doing in recent, with the last year or two with these other teams that have already jumped on, is for $20 a month, even if you're in market, you can buy a package that just gives you Twins games for $20 a month, even if you live in the Twin Cities. You could not do that before, at least not legally. You could not do that before because you had all these workarounds, blackout rules, things like that. You were not able to just buy a standalone package, and the Bally Sports North app, even if you had the Bally Sports North app, you could not get the Twins. You could get the Wild and the Wolves through their standalone streaming package, but Major League Baseball had not sold its streaming rights to Diamond Sports and Bally Sports. You were not able to get the Twins games on that app. So now, starting in 2025, you will be able to, even if you're a cord cutter, even if you do not have cable or satellite or a package that has the Twins on your regular package, you will be able to buy just the Twins games for, I think, $100 a year or $20 a month. $20 a month probably, a little bit less lucrative or not quite as good of a deal in the long run, because probably ends up being about $120 if you want April, May, June, July, August, September. If you just buy the whole thing, if you're committed to the whole thing, $100 a year. It's not nothing. But if you don't want to buy a cable or satellite package, if you don't want to buy a monthly subscription that gets you the Twins and all these other channels for a lot more money, you can have just the Twins now for, if it's the same fee as last year, $20 a month. So I think that's a win. I think it's a huge win for consumers. I don't know what the economics yet are for the Twins and for these other teams that have jumped on board. The Twins have already said they're not cutting payroll anymore, so we'll have to see what the impact of all of this is on their payroll. But I think they will be distributing games to a lot more fans. I think in their news release, it's going from like a reach of like a little over 1 million to like potentially 4 million people that can now have access in the Twins area, in Twins territory, to Twins games. And that's a big deal too, because even if you're not recouping money immediately, you are getting out there with your name, you're getting out there with your brand. You are not hiding from it. You're not hiding your product from anybody else anymore. You can everybody has access to your product now, regardless of how you want to get the games. And I think that's huge. This is a huge deal for them. I wish it had come a year earlier, but at this point, we're not going to quibble about that. That what's done is done. What's good is that they came to this realization. They knew they had to get this done. And now, starting in 2025, finally, everything should be the way it's supposed to be.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
I've got Randy Johnson with me here right now. Randy, you were kind of saying before we started recording, a little something different to talk about this week. I did not see the game, but it sure sounds like one for the ages almost.
Yeah, it was a really good game, I felt. I mean, just they weren't, the Gophers weren't perfect by any means, but they did enough, and they owned the key moments, especially in the second half and the fourth quarter. This is 2 weeks in a row where they've come on really strong in the fourth quarter. Five possessions combined against Michigan and UCLA, and five touchdowns in those possessions.
So
in the quarter. So that's They've found something that's working for them pretty well there. It seems like Max Roseberg's taking great strides at quarterback.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a big key. I mean, walk me through the drama, though. I mean, they're down 17-10. They tie it, and then they've got the possession where they get the go-ahead touchdown, originally called short, but on review they gave it to them, unlike last week where, they have a thing go their way at the end. This week they have something go their way at the end.
Yeah, they went to they used the tush push quarterback three times in that game. They used it basically in Roseberg's first touchdown. Then he had a 5-yard run on an RPO for his second touchdown that tied the game. Then this one they tried on third down. They come up just short. Third and goal from the 1. And fourth down, you watch the play. It's tough to see where the ball was, but Rosemer's basically his whole body was in the end zone, and he gets pushed back.
Yeah,
ball came out like late after way past full process. So they called him not in. It's a really tough one to spot where the ball was there. I think they kind of had to interpolate it by looking at different frames, and then and when their PJ Fleck was right. Had an official right in his face when they first showed it that they called it short, and he was kind of going ballistic.
Right.
Then they review it and they called touchdown, and then they had to stave off one last rally by USC. They go down the field. They had 2 incompletions right away, but then Justin Wally, Gophers cornerback, got flagged for he lifted up his jersey by his midriff. And evidently, the official interpreted that as faking brandishing a weapon.
Oh, geez.
So they slapped him a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. USC gets it down to the 28, I believe it was, Gophers territory. Basically, then Coy Parrish, the freshman phenom, everybody's favorite player in Minnesota now, leaps up, makes a great flying interception, kind of gets knocked around in midair, comes down, holds on to the ball, and one kneel down, and then you have a field story.
Yeah, if they stormed the field, worthwhile, right? I mean, this was the number 11 team in the country. Now they fell all the way out of the top 25, but this was, you and I talked about this last week. I mean, if you're going to have any kind of season, you kind of had to start now, and then they did.
Yeah, it's one where you need to start stacking some wins. 3-3 might not sound that great right now, but it's a lot better than 2-4.
Right.
2-4, you have very little route to a bowl game. You got a much better chance now, and maybe you knock off the number 11 team in the country. So I think you're probably looking you feel a lot better about yourself as a team, and you're a lot more confident, I would say. Especially these last two games where they just we could be looking at the Gophers with back-to-back wins over Michigan and USC, which is that would be something.
Now, they always say we're kind of on to the next one, 0-0 on the UCLA week right now, I guess. But I always got the sense that they turn the page faster after a loss than a win, that they might kind of let this one soak in a little bit. Is that true? Like, you don't want to wipe away the momentum from something like this.
No, it's funny because PJ Fleck doesn't believe in momentum at all. But there's times where you can see that they probably did gain some momentum from a win. This one, they celebrated afterward. They celebrated on Sunday. Then they moved on to the next one later Sunday. So it's. I think they definitely with the field storming by the fans and the players. I mean, it just the image of Coy Parrish being hoisted on everybody's shoulders, and just great photos by Alex Corman from our that captured the whole spirit of the thing. It was a fun night for that team, and it's one. I think it was a really fun night for the coach too. I think, as much as anybody needed that win, just because the way things had, losing season last year, and things were starting to look that way again this year. They need to build off this. Obviously, they need. It's a very beatable UCLA team they have out in the Rose Bowl this weekend. So it's. Then you get the bye. Then you got Maryland coming in. You'll be playing teams that are probably at about their level. Maybe they won't, like, if they're favored, they won't be favored by a ton.
Sure.
So they have work to do to get to a bowl game, and I know that people want more than just a bowl game. It's you're hoping to be in playoff contention when you go into a season, if possible, with the new. The new 12-team format, but it's a start. You gotta take your steps and get there.
Well, what you can't have is a bunch of 5-7 or even 4-8 seasons in a row, right? So what you do now is you get to 3-3, you can start to see 6-6 or 7-5 a lot more clearly, and while that's not the goal at the start of the year, it looks a lot better than you've kind of given yourself a little bit of forward momentum, where you've kind of said, hey, we can compete at least on a certain level in this kind of new Big Ten, in the new world of NIL and all this stuff. So I imagine, Fleck's taking some heat this year and last year too, and rightfully so in some cases. So I think this was not like he was on the hot seat, but this one probably gives him a little bit of breathing room, assuming that they do kind of keep that going and handle UCLA this weekend too. Yeah.
It's I think people are they got a really nice season in 19 where they go 11-2, and it's a big breakthrough, and it would have been nice if they could have sustained that the next few years. They had a couple 9-win seasons in there, but once you give the fans a taste of success like that, they want more. And it's not automatic that you end up there the next year. You have to build back up each year. It's a program that. It's not in what you would say the ripest recruiting grounds in the country. They gotta cobble it together sometimes. But getting a kid like Coy Parrish to stay in state, that's huge. You see, and it's a good message to other in-state recruits. Hey, you can come here and have moments like Coy did Saturday night.
Yeah, a couple more things for you, Randy. Number one, if we're thinking about how they got it done, you're talking about Brosmer, and he seems like he's kind of, I don't know if he's maybe not played a 4-quarter game yet, but he certainly looks more comfortable right now. Looks like he's in command of the offense right now.
Yeah, I think, the progressions that, he goes through, and I think, the tip of the hat has to go to Greg Harbaugh, the offensive coordinator. That did a really good job with the screen game, using Darius Taylor as a receiver along with his exploits as a running back. Got a good run out of Marcus Major as a complimentary back in that game. They spread the ball around pretty well, and they kept USC kind of off balance there.
So they need to worry about overconfidence this weekend now? Now that they're on a heater?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think they need to obviously stay focused and take care of business. It's a very winnable game. That I watched a good chunk of UCLA at Penn State last week, and they competed for a good half, and then Penn State just kind of wore them down with their better players.
Right.
Yeah, it's UCLA doesn't score a ton, so if you don't feed them turnovers or anything, you have a pretty good chance to win if you score in the 20s.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You got a prediction for me? You think they're going to take this one?
I think they should win comfortably. Not a blowout per se, but maybe 10, 12 points. I think keep them in the teens and score in the upper 20s, maybe 30.
Maybe not down to the final play again, like it's been a few times this year already.
For someone on deadline, I prefer that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting tired of writing a story two different ways and then flopping them on. Okay, here's the winning one. Here's the losing one, and let's go from there.
Especially off a night game like that one was. Like I was saying before we started recording, I think I talked with Royce about this on Monday. Like that game started at 12:30 a.m. London time. There's no way I was going to watch it, but like we got up in the morning Sunday. We're on our way to the Vikings game, and we're like, wait, the Gophers won that game? Like we were not expecting that. So there you go.
That's and this week it's another night game, 8:00 Central.
Oof.
It'll be nice for the fans out.
That's right.
Because it'll be sunsets at I looked it up. It's at 6:21, so you're going to get the sunset in the San Gabriel Mountains there, right in the backdrop. So you'll get that whole Rose Bowl early evening experience.
Finally made it to the Rose Bowl, Randy. They did it. All right, RJ. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Great stuff from Randy Johnson. Apologies if there was a little airport noise in the background. I was doing my best. It was a long day. That was the only chance I was going to have to record a segment for today's show with Randy. So we did our best. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and we'll hopefully be back to kind of how we normally do things with Randy next week. Let's finish with the cooler. Aaron Jones is week to week. Head coach Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings said on Tuesday. That's an okay update, I guess. Sounds like he avoided long-term injury with the hip problem that kept him out of most of that win over the Jets in London. Putting on my kind of, I've seen a lot of injuries, right? You've seen a lot of kind of how these things play out. If I'm hearing that he's week to week right now and they're not sure if he's going to be able to play that next game against Detroit in a week from Sunday. So they got this, they got a bye week. But if they're not sure if he's going to be able to play a week from Sunday, I'm looking at it like this. If they're not sure if he's going to be able to play a week from Sunday, and he's already 29-year-old running back with an injury history, and they're 5-0 right now, my guess, again, this is just purely a guess based on kind of looking at the situation, looking at how you classify people. If he said day to day, I might be different in this, but week to week, I'm thinking, okay, probably not going to play against Detroit, even though that's a huge game and they could use him, unless he makes some kind of major improvements in the next 10 days. Then the next game after that's a Thursday night game. It's just, 4 days later on Thursday night. Hard to imagine that if he doesn't play in that Sunday game, he's going to be ready on a short week for that Thursday game. You never know. But my guess, just a gut, is that he misses the next two games, kind of uses that mini bye after this Thursday game where they got 10 more days to get ready, kind of going into a stretch of the schedule where they could win a bunch of games, really make a move in the league, when they're already 5-0. Try to get through these next two and then have him back, because you want Aaron Jones for the long haul, is I guess my point. You don't want to rush him back. Certainly you don't want to make this any worse. You want Aaron Jones in November and December and January hey, maybe even February, you don't need him as much in October. You certainly want him. You certainly want him out there to be healthy, but you don't want to risk putting him back out too soon and then not having him in the games that are going to matter even more. So just kind of putting on my injury hat, I'm thinking maybe he misses the next 2 games and then hopefully back for that kind of stretch run when they're playing kind of their 8th game and beyond. So we'll see. That's just my guess at this point, kind of knowing where he's at, knowing how I would handle it if I kind of saw a week-to-week designation on one of your best players and arguably your most important offensive player outside of Justin Jefferson. That will do it for me today. Lots of good stuff the rest of the week. Chip Scoggins and I are going to do a bonus podcast on his excellent series on getting ready for work, all these Minnesota athletes and what they do to prepare themselves for playing, all that goes into their game day preparation, stuff like that. So Chip and I will talk about that. I think that'll be live later today. Sarah McClellan and I will do a show Thursday previewing the Wild season. Starts tomorrow. I can't believe that. That snuck up on me. But I'll have Sarah on to talk Wild on tomorrow's show. Should have Lavelle on later this week as well. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow.